14.1.1c would require policy and training that protects employees that disclose wrongdoing. I know the department is currently training on how to speak to peers and higher-ups to de-escalate situations. I was able to attend that training along with Deputy Director Dorsey, and I see it firsthand, and it is some excellent training, and I want to commend the department on that. But this new rule would put in State Police Commission rules that requirement. And just for clarification, the Commission does have the constitutional authority to require that an appointing authority institute an employee training and safety program, and that's under Section 48 of Article 10. Just wanted to make that clear.
I'd like to move adoption of Rule 14.1.1c. We have a second.
Second.
Be the first to speak in favor of this rule. I feel very strongly about this rule. I think this rule is right in line with ensuring that people who step up, people who do speak, are not punished for doing that. That they have the ability to understand, and this is one of those changes we talked about a little bit earlier in our commission rules, that they understand that they will have a right to come directly to us, even if it's not official discipline, the right to come to us about adverse employment action that may take place when they speak up. I understand we might need to add a little language to the rule to make it clear that obviously this rule is not intended to say someone, they speak up and therefore they become immune from adverse employment action simply because they spoke up. If they did something wrong, they would be punished as well, but they won't be punished because they spoke up. So I speak very strongly in favor of this rule as one of the tools that we're trying to put together to help make sure that people not only get trained on speaking up, but they know that this commission will protect them when they do.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, if I may as well, completely agree with the recommendation and the ruling. Just wanted to bring for clarity, if we could, to your point, if we maybe add or consider the rule does not exempt the employee from any sustained violations of the department policy. Some language or verbiage along that line. That way, it's not.
Yeah. How about if I amend my own motion? I would move that we adopt it with addition of the following language. However, nothing in this rule shall prohibit discipline or adverse employment action against any employee who violates policies or procedures of the agency.
Absolutely. Good well, sir.
He's good at that.
I do it every day.
Sounds like lawyer language, yeah.
All right. So, as I understand, because we're making a change from the way the rule was promulgated in the general circular, I have to read the whole thing, including the proposed change. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now you know why I wanted to break these down, so I wouldn't have to read that A, B, and C all together. So I will read the entirety of Rule C as proposed in the motion with the change. Ensure that the department, through established policy and training, protects employees who report possible misconduct and or policy violations and shall not take or threaten to take adverse personnel or disciplinary actions against an employee because he or she disclosed wrongdoing. However, nothing in this rule shall prohibit discipline or adverse employment action against any employee who violates policies or procedures. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
So
sir.
you've now read into the record the amendment to the proposed rule.
Okay.
You voted to adopt the amendment to the proposed rule. Now you need to ask for public comment on the newly amended proposed rule.
Okay. Is there public comment on the newly proposed amended rule? Seeing none.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh. Yes, sir. Briefly.
Well, hearing that now you guys have protections in place for whistleblowers like Carl Cavalier, Is there any way you guys can reinstate his employment?
This is a new rule.
But I'm just saying, there's always exceptions to the rule too.
We can't, for the reasons we talked about earlier, and I'll be happy to have a more prolonged discussion with you about it, but for the reasons we,
He wasn't on the scene though. I mean,
no, it has nothing to do with whether there's discipline for other violence. We can't retroactively apply this, even if we wanted to look at it. We can't do
come on.
that. We'll talk.
I mean, real talk. I mean, you guys now are you're making the wrong right by creating, amending, that rule.
This is not a Carl Cavalier rule.
Okay.
This
No,
is-
I'm just saying, now that you have a protection for,
It is on.
your troopers,
Yeah.
there should be something. I mean, you guys fired this man just for
We
speaking up.
fired no one. This commission does have, the state police has the authority to fire and individuals. This commission,
But that was a wrong move.
if it had come to us and on an appeal, we could have made a decision that that was a wrong rule. But it didn't get to us on the appeal. It got settled in federal court. But let's have a more prolonged discussion about this and how we can try to address this going forward.
I'm just saying, until the wrongs are made right, the lack of trust is gonna be there, you know?
I understand your position.
And it's not just the Louisiana State Police Commission that we're looking at. We're looking at the entire law enforcement entity. And so when you guys can actually acknowledge, hey, we made a wrong decision, he wasn't,
This is not an acknowledgement of a wrong decision. This is a decision by this commission to establish a rule that we think is a good rule. It's not an acknowledgement of what happened in the past. It's a going forward rule that we're within our constitutional power to do, and we're willing to do and want to do. But we have certain limits on what we can't do. So let us move forward on doing this, and then we'll be in that position.
Can I be in that meeting with y'all?
So
Which
just-
meeting?
That you and her.
Well, that's gonna be between y'all. Y'all can discuss that. But I, as a person, am willing to meet with anybody. Now, whether it's gonna be jointly between the two of you or individually, I'm willing to meet with you. I'm not saying I'm not, but let's just, that's all I can say about that.
so you don't believe that Carl Cavalier deserves to be back on the force with his integrity, his professionalism?
I have not.
He's a good apple.
I have not seen. I have not.
Can he reapply?
I have not. We have not had an appeal. We have not seen all of the evidence. We can't make a comment on one way or the other on it, unless and until we have a formal appeal that comes to us that we rule on as a commission. We can't comment on that. That would be inappropriate for me or anybody. I don't want to speak for anybody else. I believe it would be inappropriate for me to make a comment on that.
I don't know. I haven't been keeping up much with his case, but I know his hearings kept getting postponed. And so they kept getting postponed. How was he ever going to be able to appeal his case? You know?
Well,
But
as
again, I feel like that's a conversation for you all to get together to say, you know what? This guy deserves a second chance, or, you know, here it is, you guys give the pill popper, you know, what's his name? The guy that got his, you know, he was taken off of leave and he's back on the force now.
we didn't give him a second opportunity. There was a discipline that was imposed. There was a settlement of that discipline. We certainly approved the settlement, as is our constitutional duty to review. But that settlement was,
It doesn't add up.
But
I hear what you're saying, but it
okay.
it doesn't look right in the public eye, what took
Let me
place
say,
with that guy.
let's not confuse the settlement that occurred in federal court that we don't have any authority over at all
Okay.
with a settlement that occurs within the context of the department on a matter that is pending before us.
But before Cavalier's case got to the federal level, there was something that you guys could have done, and it didn't happen.
There were procedural reasons, like, as you said, you didn't follow it closely, and I'm not being
Yeah,
critical.
yeah.
There were procedural things that came up that necessitated those continuances, basically for his benefit, so that he could be prepared to present his evidence, is why those procedural continuances occurred. It wasn't to hurt him, it was to allow him to be able to get the evidence that he needed, so that he could, if he had that evidence, prove that the discipline was improper. So it was an effort not to hurt him, but to give him the opportunity to present a full case to us. But that's going beyond the scope of what we're dealing with right now.
Right.
But I'd be happy to sit down and have a more detailed conversation.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hart.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so what do we have, what's next?
Mr. Chairman.
Since I didn't follow the rules.
That's okay, Mr. Chairman. The final part of this process is to now vote to adopt the final version of the proposed rule 14.1.1C as amended on the floor.
All right, so can we revote? We would call for a revote.
Yeah, it's an additional vote.
All right, so all in favor of the,
Yeah, as our motion.
it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of adoption of the amended rule as read and commented upon, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, the director's report, short director.
Mr. Short, I have a lengthy direct, just